Coming up next on Kids TV and Me, author, illustrator, and children's television enthusiast Joshua Stauffer will be talking to you today about this.
Ears. Droopy ears, sticky out ears, earache, fever, flu, fat paws, face ache. Where is it? Goggle eyes, giddiness, headaches, whooping cough. Ah, there we are. Hiccups. To cure hiccups, place yourself in an upside-down position and sing a song. Sing a song? Oh well, I suppose it's worth a try. I don't want to have the hiccups. Hiccups, you must go. I don't want to have the... Ah, that's better.
Hello everybody, Joshua Stauffer here, back with another episode of Kids TV and Me. It is the second Saturday of April, so today we're going to talk about 3 more episodes of Kipper the Dog. Today's Kipper episodes will be the camping trip, the Igloo, and Hiccups. According to the list on Wikipedia of the episodes in original UK broadcast order, these are episodes 16, 17, and 18. And these 3 segments aired together on Nick Jr. in 1999, and my mom recorded it for me in a rerun in 2001. Or no, actually 2000, sorry. I watched it a lot in 2001, though. So let's begin today's analysis with the camping trip. It was written by George Terry, who also wrote Kipper Circus and Water, Water Everywhere. Hopefully this won't be quite as chaotic as Water, Water Everywhere, but we shall see. Alright, Kipper and the camping trip. Here we go. Let's do this. First thing we see is not a plain white background, just kind of a very colorful background. Like, it's sort of, from top to bottom, it sort of fades from blue to white and then to green, like the sky on the top and green grass down below. And then we see Tiger rolling around on his tricycle. I think he's having a little trouble steering it because for a split second he kind of steers towards us and then kind of turns around and goes in the other direction. And his tricycle is loaded up with something. He's wearing a backpack and there's something underneath his seat with some sticks tied to it. That reminds me of Kipper Circus when they were doing all that stuff with the rope, and I was wondering if they had a way to cut the rope. Maybe Tiger keeps stuff under there. Maybe he had something to cut it with. But anyway, Tiger's now arriving at Kipper's house. He rings this tiny little doorbell right along the edge of the door frame there. Kipper opens the door and says, "Hello?" And Tiger is panting like a tired dog. Kipper says he looks hot, but Tiger denies it. He says, "Hot? Me? No." He says, "Want to come camping?" And without any hesitation, Kipper just says, "Yeah, all right." And Tiger says he's got a tent and food and everything, all packed up on his tricycle and his backpack. I guess Kipper's not very busy. He's just going to go right along with this, not really making any plans or preparations or anything. So now we see Kipper and Tiger riding along, going camping. Tiger's still on his tricycle, and Kipper has his 2-wheel bike, without training wheels, mind you. And he's got a water bottle tied to the front handlebars, and maybe something else tied to the back. That white part. It's either his seats or it's some kind of bag of something, I'm not sure. Now I want to point out something really unusual about Tiger's face here. Like during the first half of the series, whenever they would show Tiger from like a side angle, when he talks, his mouth is like tucked down in his neck, which doesn't really make any sense because when we see him from the front side, his mouth is above his chin and below his nose like it would normally be. But I guess the animators couldn't figure out a way to show Tiger talking if his mouth is right along the front like that, so they put his mouth below his chin down into his neck. That is really weird. They eventually solved that problem later, like in the second half of the series. They actually managed to show his mouth right below his nose from a side angle and have the lips kind of stick out a little bit so you can see him talking, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I just thought that looked kind of weird. So what's he saying? He's saying that a tricycle is much more stable when it comes to carrying things, because the 3 wheels hold you steady. And as he's talking, he almost bumps into a rock that's on the ground. He manages to go over it, and Kipper goes around it. And Tiger continues, whereas a bike has 2 wheels, and it's easy to fall over. So I don't know if Tiger's just not good at riding a bike and he's trying to justify the fact that he's still on a tricycle or what. But what he's saying does make sense. When you have a lot of cargo, it is probably good to have a more stable vehicle to carry it with. But Kipper wonders if Tiger's trying to ask him in kind of an indirect way if he could carry something. Because Kipper offers Tiger if he could carry something for him. But Tiger says, oh, no, I'm fine. And they climb up this steep hill on their wheels. And then they go down the other side really fast. And just right over the edge, they go over a rock, or at least Tiger does. And Tiger says, whoa, see what I mean? I'd have been over then if I had been on a bike. I would have been over. I wonder if that's just like a kid-friendly way of saying I would have been dead if I'd been on a bike. Probably. And yeah, see, Kipper just goes around that rock once again. I mean, there's a little bit of a dip in the grass that gives Kipper a little bit of a bump, but he doesn't hit the rock. It's either a rock or a big pile of mud that kind of sticks up there. And Kipper understands what Tiger is saying. It kind of makes sense to him. He says, right. Tiger still has his hind legs on the pedals of his tricycle, whereas Kipper has his legs up, going down the hill on the bicycle. And Tiger's feet look kind of funny the way they're just kind of going around in a blur. Next thing we see is a little hill with 5 little bunnies jumping around. Oh no, at least 5. There's actually 6 now. There's a lot of them. And one of them hears Kipper and Tiger coming. He thumps his foot really fast to warn everybody, and then they all jump away. And now Kipper and Tiger have arrived at their destination, which is right there where the bunnies were a second ago. And Tiger kind of looks around, tries to pick the perfect spot to set up their tent. He's a little bit fussy over perfection in this kind of situation. And so Tiger unloads his tricycle, and apparently that was the tent underneath his seat. Kipper doesn't take anything off of his bicycle just yet. Oh, maybe that's his sandwiches wrapped up. I think that's what it is. They wrapped up in the string with the wax paper, because he's going to eat those sandwiches later, I just remembered. But he's going to leave them on the bike for now. Tiger's tent is basically just this big green cloth wrapping up this pile of sticks. And he tosses on the ground, and there's all those sticks there. They're not just, tree branch sticks. They're like these little pipes that you put together with pointy ends to stick in the ground. Then one of the bunnies hops by, and Kipper says hello to it. You see Tiger crawling around under the big green fabric there, or whatever that tent is made of. He says, can you pass me a pole? I know now that he said pole like P-O-L-E, but when I was 3 years old, at first I thought he said Poe like the red Teletubby. But nope, pole, one of the sticks that they're going to use to set up the tent. And Kipper lifts up the edge of the green tarp and sticks one of the poles underneath, and then once it goes under, it kind of sticks up and makes a point, and we hear Tiger say, ouch! And Kipper says, whoops, sorry. I wonder what part of Tiger's body that pole hit. Hope it wasn't, his face or something. That would have hurt. But he seems okay. You see the bunnies out in the distance watching these guys set up the tent. Now, Kipper's crawling underneath, trying to help Tiger. He asks him, now what do we do, Tiger? And meanwhile, the bunnies are sitting right outside the tent, checking it out, looking at it. Then the 2 dogs stand up with the green tarp on top of them. I guess they're holding the sticks. And they stand up, and the bunnies fall over. They didn't expect them to stand up like that. And Tiger says, we need to go your way. And they're trying to walk with this thing. They kind of walk apart for a second, and then they crash into each other. Tiger says, no, your way, other way. And as they're trying to walk with it, one of the rabbits is standing on the edge of the green tarp, sliding on it like a surfer. Surfing in the grass, that's hilarious. Wow. And they don't get very far. They eventually trip over each other and fall to the ground. And they keep trying to build it as the rabbits watch. Then we fade to black, and they eventually do get to the tent set up. Tiger's got a little wooden hammer to nail down the pegs. He must have gotten a new wooden mallet because Kipper broke the one that he used in the seaside episode. I don't think they were setting up a tent on the beach. Was it a tent they were setting up? They were hammering something in the ground to set up their base camp. That's what they used the wooden mallet for. Then Kipper hit a little too hard and it broke, and then he had to go get a rock to use instead. But Tiger apparently got a new mallet and works just fine. They got the nails in the ground. Kipper and Tiger's tent looks like it's nice and stable here. Now it's all done and they go inside. It's pretty dark in there, but they both seem to like it. And pretty soon Kipper says, I'm hungry. Tiger says, me too. The I'm hungry, me too. It sounds similar to the way they said it in the picnic episode, but it's not the same recording. Kind of makes sense that after that struggle of building up the tents, they would get hungry after a while. So now they're gonna go out and eat. Wow, Tiger brought a grill. What's he cooking there? Are those like sausages or something? They look a little big to be sausages. I wonder if it's kielbasi like they had on Reading Rainbow. Who knows? Maybe they have some kind of special sausage or meats that they make in the UK that I don't know about. But my goodness, how old are these characters? 1 minute Tiger is riding a tricycle like a little kid, and now he's cooking sausages on the grill like an adult. I have no idea how old they're supposed to be. Like, the characters on this show, they're pretty much ageless. They do kid stuff, but they do grown-up stuff too. I think that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed this show so much when I was 10. I mean, I originally watched it when I was 3, but even when I was 10, I was still watching these tapes and enjoying them thoroughly. And they don't really have kid voices either. Yeah, see, Kipper brought his own sandwiches. That's probably what he had packed up on his bicycle there. I don't know what's in those sandwiches, if it's peanut butter or cheese or what. Can't even see what's in between. Just the line between the two slices. And then he sees one of the bunnies again, and he offers the sandwich to him. Says, want one? The bunny looks at it, and he almost looks like he's, like, shaking his head no a little bit, like moving his head back and forth left and right. So I guess he doesn't want one right now. Because he doesn't take it, he just hops away then. Well, maybe he considers it, though, because he kind of reaches his hands out in a split second there. But maybe he sees that the meat on the grill is burning a little bit. Tiger doesn't see it yet. Looks like he's got a can of baked beans. And he says, did you bring the tin opener? I guess that's what they call it over there. It's a tin opener instead of a can opener. So it's a tin of beans. And unfortunately, Kipper didn't bring a can of beans. Or didn't bring a can opener for the beans. Which is kind of a shame because where are they going to eat now if the sausages are ruined? I mean, I hope Tiger has a can opener somewhere that he just didn't see where it is yet. Yeah, I think those actually are cheese sandwiches because, well, I don't know. The stuff that's between the two slices, they actually have 2 lines there now, but it's the same color as the bread, so maybe it's peanut butter, maybe it's cheese, I'm not sure. Could be lunch meat too, who knows? And that's when Tiger sniffs the air and he sees smoke coming off of the sausages. And the way this grill is set up, it looks like there's this blue can, like maybe it's a gas can, and it's got this like little thing on top with these little heat flames, and Tiger had a frying pan on top of that. So very simple setup there. So yeah, I don't know if those sausages are still edible or not. I mean, I would probably eat one. I don't mind burnt hot dogs. I kind of like them actually. If they're too burnt to eat, I guess Kipper will offer Tiger one of his sandwiches because he's got plenty there, so they'll be all right. Then we dissolve to a little bit later on. It's an evening scene. It's pretty much nighttime there. There's stars coming out in the sky, and the sky's dark blue. Oh, these little bunnies are having so much fun this episode. One of them climbs to the top of the tent and slides down the other side. That reminds me of a section of the gymnasium at the Universal Athletic Club where you climb the rope on one side. There's this like big rubber triangular thing. You climb up one side with the rope and then you just slide down the other, or toss the rope around and climb down the other side. But that triangular arch there with the smooth rubber, you just slide down. Maybe think of that part here with the tent, the bunny sliding down. And that bunny just curls up and falls asleep right next to Kipper. He's lying on the ground looking up at the stars. And Tiger's finishing his supper. It looks like he's eating one of Kipper's sandwiches. Or maybe, were those actually sandwiches that Kipper brought? Or were they just pieces of bread? No, I'm pretty sure they were sandwiches because they were 2 pieces stuck together with something in between. The reason I thought that it was just bread was because I wonder if Tiger was planning on making sausage sandwiches. Because this piece here that Tiger is eating, it looks like there might be a little piece of sausage sticking out the corner there, but maybe it's just a darker part of the bread crust. When they're done eating, they just lie down in the grass and look up at the thousands of stars. And they keep going back and forth, saying bigger numbers, because there's a lot more than thousands. Kipper starts by saying thousands, and Tiger says millions. And Kipper says billions. Tiger, zillions. No, actually, Tiger says trillions, and then Kipper says zillions. And that's when Tiger says quillions. To which Kipper says, there's no such thing as quillions. And Tiger says, how do you know? Well, I've got the internet right in front of me here, so let's see if there is such a thing as quillions. Okay, there's no quillions, but a quintillion. Google says, is a cardinal number representing 10 with the little 18 on the top right corner. It's been so long since I've been in math class, I don't remember what that means. 1 followed by 18 zeros. Okay. Does that mean like 18th power or something? I gotta start watching Square One TV or something. Maybe I'll learn a few of these. Because it's been almost 11 years since I finished high school, so haven't had to study that stuff in a long time. Don't really use any of it in real life. Number representing 1 followed by 18 zeros in the short scale used in the US, UK, and modern scientific contexts is expressed as 1, 3 zeros, 3 zeros, 3 zeros, 3 zeros, 3 zeros, 3 zeros, which is equal to 1,000 quadrillions or 1,000,000 trillions, often associated with the prefix exa. Quintillion's a 19-digit number, 1 followed by 18 zeros. Trillion has 12 zeros. Quadrillion has 15 zeros. Quintillion has 18 zeros. And sextillion, 21 zeros. So Tiger's close. There may not be such a word as quillions, but he might be thinking of quintillions. And then Tiger asks Kipper if stars can go out, like being switched off. Kipper says, I don't think so. Tiger says, well, why are they disappearing then? And Kipper looks up and it turns out there's a big black cloud covering up the stars and the moon. And yep, it's a storm cloud. Pretty soon it starts raining. The first drop lands on Tiger's nose. Then all 3 of them, the 2 dogs and the rabbit, stand up. And Kipper says, I think we better go inside. Bye, rabbit. And the rabbit hops away, and the 2 dogs hop into their tent. And they're still enjoying it. Tiger says, this is fun. And all of a sudden, boom, the thunder and lightning. And then Kipper and Tiger get a little scared and they hug each other, kind of like Frog and Toad did in Dragons and Giants when the storm began on top of the mountain there. And man, that storm is brutal. It's like the wind is blowing so hard that it's like bending the trees there. And the bushes too. And as you may have guessed, the wind is getting ready to blow the tent away, pulling the ropes right out of the ground. The nails are not strong enough to hold the tent anymore. And there it goes. They're caught in the rain. They lost their tent. Kipper says, I think we better find some shelter. They're walking around trying to figure out what to do and where to go, and it's very dark. They can hardly see. And Kipper runs into a tree. Says, oof, we gotta get out of the rain. Tiger says, where? Kipper says, you go that way. And so they split up trying to find some place to wait, I guess. And then as Tiger walks towards us, when he gets up close, we pretty much only see him from the shoulders up. And then, it looks like he falls off a cliff. What happened to him? And Kipper doesn't know that Tiger is lost yet. He's running through the rain trying to find shelter. And when I was 3 years old, I thought Kipper was crying there for a second because I saw all the water droplets in front of his face, but they're not teardrops. Those are the raindrops coming down. And that's when he realizes the Tiger is missing. He says, Tiger, Tiger, where are you? Tiger, don't muck about. Don't muck about, M-U-C-K. In the UK, muck about means mess around. Google says, don't muck about or muck around is a British informal phrase meaning to stop wasting time behaving in a silly or lazy way or messing around. So for whatever reason, for a split second there, Kipper thought that maybe Tiger was just, standing around carelessly, not really taking the situation seriously, but I don't know why that would be the case, because it's a pretty bad storm right there. And yeah, it's definitely windy out, so those clouds are moving very fast. And then, as Kipper calls for Tiger, he walks towards us, and then he falls down what appears to be that same cliff that Tiger fell off of. And it turns out that's not a cliff, but it's a hole in the ground to a tunnel. You see Kipper sliding down this underground tunnel, which leads to an even bigger tunnel where Tiger is laying and Kipper falls on top of him. So what is this place? Kipper says, where are we? Hey, there's one of the bunnies. And the bunny tickles Kipper and Kipper says, hey, get off. They used that same recording again later in Arnold's balloon trip when they were up in the sky on the bench with the balloons and the birds were tickling Kipper. He said, hey, get off. So what is this? Is this supposed to be some gigantic rabbit warren? This seems a little bit big to be a rabbit tunnel. Like, how could Kipper and Tiger fit inside there? Because, look at that tiny little bunny. That tunnel is huge. There's no way rabbits could have made that tunnel, I wouldn't think. Unless something else made that tunnel and the rabbits just lived there. And the rabbit kind of jumps around and Kipper thinks that the rabbit wants them to follow him. And so they stand up in this tunnel and start walking. They don't even have to crawl through it. They're just stand up and walk on their hind legs. So this tunnel is really big for a rabbit tunnel. Seems very exaggerated. This is definitely a George Terry episode. Looks like fun, though. I wouldn't mind exploring those tunnels. They look safe enough. The tunnel just kind of goes up and down and around. There's tree roots growing underneath there. And they come to this little room at the end of the tunnel where the rabbits live. I wonder how they're able to see in there. Like, there's no lights, and it's very dark and stormy outside. Maybe they could just hear where the rabbit was going and just listen and follow. Yeah, Kipper and Tiger sit down with all the rabbits there, and one of the bunnies hands him a carrot. And Kipper says, "Is that for me? Thanks." Good. And Tiger says, "Could I have one?" And the rabbit brings Tiger a carrot as well. And they're sitting there with the rabbits enjoying their carrots, and then Kipper lays back and says, "I wonder if it's still raining outside." And Tiger says, "I don't know." And he just stretches and yawns and lies down with the bunnies, and I guess they just kind of fall asleep there in the tunnel. And then the picture kind of zooms out. It looks like just a little oval picture surrounded by a black background, and then it slowly fades away. And that's it. That's the end of the episode. Interesting. That episode didn't really have an actual conclusion. Like, we still don't know if they completely lost their tent altogether. I assume they kind of did, which is kind of sad. And we also never got to see how Kipper and Tiger got out of the tunnel. Because at first glance, it looks like that's something that they would just, like, fall into and not be able to get out of. But I guess if rabbits can get in and out of there, I'm sure the walls of the cave are bumpy enough that they could just climb up to get to that smaller hole and climb up out of that. So it's not like they're stuck down there forever, I wouldn't think. So I guess they're just going to relax down there until the storm passes and then go back up and see if they can gather their camping things, if there's anything left, and then just grab their bikes and go home. So yeah, I enjoyed that episode. Makes me think of a time when me and my dad went camping in our backyard. We live in the city, but we do have a small backyard, and we set up a tent back there, and we grilled hot dogs and marshmallows on a little grill back there, and we even slept out there overnight in the tent. And at one point it even rained during the middle of the night. And I remember hearing cardinals when I first woke up. That was really beautiful. And another thing this reminds me of, once again, the gymnasium at Universal Athletic Club, they had lots of tunnels to crawl around in. That big structure was like a big pipeline maze with all the tunnels and slides. It was a lot of fun to explore that, and this kind of reminded me of that. Obviously, on Kipper, this was a much bigger tunnel than what they had at the gymnasium, but these round, dark tunnels that kind of curve around, and you can explore them and go through it. And the fact that there's like no outside windows. The ones at Universal had some windows, but not a lot, so some parts of it were a little dark. But yeah, when I was 3 years old, I went to that gymnasium a couple of times in 2001, like for the first time. And that was right around the time when I was watching these Kipper episodes over and over again, so a little bit of a connection there. But yeah, Kipper, the camping trip. Overall, a pretty good episode. A little bit weird at times, but the whole thing with the bunnies in the background was really cute, and it's really cool how they were able to help them in the end. Alright, so that was the camping trip. That was today's A episode, and the camping trip was released on VHS and DVD in the Tiger Tales collection. I think for me, the biggest highlight of this episode was the music. I really like the whole tune of ba-dum, 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 bum, bum, do-do, wop, do-do, wop, do-do, wop, wop, do-do, wop, do-do, wop, do-do, wop. Before we go into today's B episode, I'll play the last minute of this episode so you can hear what this beautiful music is like. I'll be back with more in a moment.
I think he wants us to follow him. Oh, hello. Looks warm. Is that for me? Thanks. I wonder if it's still raining outside.
Don't know.
I'm back with more Kipper the Dog. Now let's take a look at today's B episode, which is called The Igloo. The Igloo was released in the Let It Snow collection on VHS and DVD. Hopefully, it's not igloo weather where you are. It's the second week of April when this episode comes out, so I'm enjoying the springtime weather, but I don't mind seeing a little bit of snow as long as it's on the TV and not outside the window. Okay, The Igloo. This episode begins with a view outside of Kipper's window, and the ground and the tree are all covered with snow. The sky looks a little bit dark. We see snowflakes coming down as well. We zoom out and we see Kipper sitting in his basket bed reading a book. And he looks at one of the pictures, and here we have a picture of these two Eskimos standing in front of an igloo. One of them is holding a fish that he just caught, and it looks like these Eskimos are humans. Wow. So apparently humans do exist in Kipper's universe. I think the only episode, though, where we actually saw Kipper walk up to a human in person was the butterfly. There was a baby in a stroller in the park, and Kipper was trying to catch the butterfly without disturbing the baby. But that would have been the only time we saw humans on this show. That and this. So anyway, this picture gives Kipper an idea. He says, "That's what I'll do today. I'll get Tiger, and then we'll build an igloo." So then we dissolve to the next scene. Kipper and Tiger are outside. Kipper's wearing his green scarf with the red stripe, and Tiger he's got a lot more winter clothes on. He's got mittens and a hat, and his entire torso is all wrapped up in the scarf. And Tiger's winter clothes are also mostly green with a bunch of red and white stripes. And Tiger's got the book in his hands. Kipper brought his shovel out, and they're standing there by a little brick wall in front of Kipper's house. We see this wall quite a few times throughout the series. I was gonna say it kind of reminds me of the wall that Charlie Brown and his friends always stand behind, but but on Kipper the Dog, Kipper usually stands in front of the wall instead of behind it. And Kipper makes a little snowball, he tosses it into the air, and then he looks at where the snowball lands, and Kipper says, "We'll build it here." Okay, so I guess he just used that snowball to pick a place. I wonder what kind of book that is. Is that a book of different houses? I see something that looks like a house on the front. Maybe that's what it is. Because an igloo is a type of house for Eskimos. And Tiger's looking at the book, but apparently it doesn't say anything about how to build an igloo. So he asks Kipper what we should do first. How do we start? Kipper picks up his shovel and says, "First we need to chop up some big blocks of snow." When I was 3, I thought he said we need to jump up some big plops of snow. But nope, it's chop up big blocks. And the way he does it is he takes his shovel and then he slices up the snow that's sitting on top of the wall. Okay, that's very handy. Easy way to do it. And as he chops the snow sitting on top of the wall into blocks, he does it with his shovel. And each time he makes a little slice, a little tiny pile of snow appears right below the crack. And he counts as he does it. 1, 2. And we hear him doing it 4 times. But he's probably going to do it a lot more times pretty soon. And meanwhile, Tiger is drawing out a circle on the ground in the snow with his mitten. Then Kipper carefully lifts a snow block off of the wall, and he and Tiger carefully carry it into place, sitting it on the little ring that Tiger had dug out. And as we see him working, we dissolve to a little bit later. They got a bunch more blocks laid out. And finally, Kipper reaches up and drops the last block into place right on top of the roof. And the igloo is finished. They high-five and roll around in the snow and dance around and cheer and laugh. But then Kipper looks at it and says, "Oh, Tiger, we've forgotten to leave a space for the door." And Tiger sees that this is true, and then they both laugh. Kind of interesting, though, that Kipper said a space for the door. I guess he meant doorway. Like, they're not actually going to put a real opening and closing door in it. Just like an entranceway is what he meant. So Kipper grabs his shovel again. Then he digs out a hole in the front of the igloo so they can get in. And sure enough, they do go inside. They crawl in, and they like it in there. Kipper says, "Wow, we're just like Eskimos now." Eskimos, that's funny. It's a little cold in there. Tiger shivers. And Tiger says, "Whew, it's a bit dark, isn't it? I wish I had my torch." That's a reference to the episode Tiger's Torch. His torch is his flashlight. That's what they call flashlights in the UK, torches, like torch lights. I'm surprised that Tiger didn't bring his torch on the camping trip, because I thought it was a lot darker in the tent than it is in this igloo. And a little bit of light actually does come through the igloo. And Tiger points out, oh, that's better, the sun's coming out. So I guess it must have been cloudy a minute ago, making it really dark in the igloo. A few years ago, I read a book called Waylon Even More Awesome by Sarah Pennypacker. It was a story where a boy was building an igloo for a stray dog, and he was talking to his friend Baxter about how an igloo is made up of snow, which is like all these little water crystals, and the way they can reflect sunlight, it helps light shine down inside the igloo, like it's not completely dark in there. And you see little rays of light shining down into Kipper's igloo here. And see, here's what I was talking about before. When Tiger talks, when his face moves back and forth, his mouth changes from being on the front of his face below his nose, above his chin, to being below his chin, down his neck. Like when we see the side view, his mouth is down, tucked in his neck, and when you see the front view, his mouth is just below his nose. So the animators weren't quite sure what to do with that yet, because Tiger's face is a very unusual shape compared to Kipper's face. And then Tiger feels a drop of water land on his nose. And they crawl out of the igloo, and they see the sun's pretty bright right now, and the igloo is getting a little bit softer. It's melting a little bit. I mean, it's not like shrinking or anything, but it's just getting a lot wetter at the moment. And Tiger says, we need to stop it from getting hot. And Kipper says, well, we can't stop the sun. And so then they go inside and get umbrellas. Fade to black, and the next scene, they've got their umbrellas. Kipper's got a kind of an aqua turquoise one. It's a little bit bluish, but with a little tint of green. And Tiger's umbrella is definitely green. And apparently they've been holding their umbrellas for a long time now because their arms are starting to ache. And Tiger doesn't think this is working. Then they try fanning the igloo with their umbrellas, and that doesn't work either. But then the sky gets a little bit cloudier once again, and the sun goes behind the clouds, so it's not quite as sunny. The igloo will be fine now. And Kipper and Tiger cheer once again. In fact, it's the exact same cheer that they did when they finished building the igloo. They used that recording again. And here comes Pig and Arnold. Pig's wearing a blue scarf with a yellow end, and Arnold's wearing a yellow scarf. And they say hello, and they show Pig the igloo that they built. And Pig goes inside, and Tiger and Kipper follow. Arnold stays outside, though. And once they're inside, Kipper realizes that Arnold's not there. Then Tiger peeks out, and he can't see him. And then they look up from inside the igloo, and they can see Arnold's shadow climbing up on the roof. Wow. That's pretty impressive, Arnold. I'll bet that's cold. And he slides down off the igloo. I guess it's still slippery from the sun, and lands on the snowy ground pretty hard. At least the ground has soft snow on it. Otherwise, that probably would have hurt. And then later we see Arnold sitting next to something made of snow. Oh my goodness, did he just make a tiny little snow pig? That is adorable. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell what it is. When I was little, at first I thought that was supposed to be like a fire hydrant or something. But no, I'm pretty sure that little round thing in the front is not a water valve. It's supposed to be a little pig snout. That is adorable. Arnold's first little snow pig made all by himself. Oh, wow, he even took off his scarf and gave it to the snow pig. And Arnold's still sucking his thumb all the while. And then it starts raining. And Arnold's just sitting there in the rain, doesn't even seem to care yet. Still sucking his thumb. Oh no, it's actually raining inside the igloo too a little bit. So the igloo's got a bunch of roof leaks. And then Kipper remembers that they had brought umbrellas outside. In fact, Arnold actually has one of them open now. Sitting there with his little snow piglet. He's using Kipper's umbrella. And Kipper's coming out now to check on Arnold, make sure he's okay. And he's going to grab Tiger's umbrella then. And for whatever reason, Pig says he wants to go outside. Maybe because he'd rather be caught in the rain outside where he can run and go home than be caught in the rain inside this little enclosed space. I don't know. Pig tries to get out, but oh no, he's stuck. And so they try to get Pig out. Tiger pushes Pig from behind, and Kipper pulls from out front. And one of Pig's grunts, that's another thing that they used twice in this episode. Oh. They used that when Pig was climbing or crawling into the igloo for the first time, and then they used it again here when they're trying to pull Pig back out. And that was another recording that they used in Arnold's balloon trip when they were all dangling from the bench being flown by balloons up in the sky. And they were trying to climb back onto the bench and not fall off. Pig was climbing back on and said, oh. Exactly the same as he did twice here. And finally, they all tumble out of the igloo. Pig is free. This part here's kind of weird. Right after they get Pig unstuck, we hear Kipper and Tiger laughing, but we don't see them laughing. They're just kind of staggering after that big tumble. Even Pig laughs a little bit too, but then Kipper notices that the igloo's getting a bunch of holes in it from the rain. It's really melting now. So Kipper runs back into his house, opens up the freezer, and pulls out a tray of ice cubes. He knocks them out of the tray with a shovel, and they try to fill in the holes that the rain left behind. They try to put ice cubes in the holes to try to block up the rain from coming in, but it doesn't work that good. Somehow, Pig got back into the igloo and took the umbrella inside with him. He's opening up the umbrella inside the igloo, still getting rained on. Pig says, "It's not working, and I'm still getting wet." When he said, "It's not working," my goodness, there's tons of stuff in this program that they used again in Arnold's balloon trip. When the bench in the sky was starting to fall, the balloons were losing air. They tried to flap their wings like birds to try to stay in the air, and that's where Pig said, "It's not working, it's not working." It sounded very much like this. And back outside, Kipper and Tiger realized that the ice cubes are not going to solve this problem. There's just too many holes and they ran out of ice cubes. But then all of a sudden, it starts hailing. There's hailstones coming down, just like in the episode of the paddling pool. So Kipper and Tiger join Arnold under his umbrella, and the snow pig didn't melt yet. And then they see that the hailstones are actually filling up the holes, so now the igloo will be okay. At least for now. Poor little Arnold looks a little bit worried seeing all that hail, holding the umbrella for them. Now they're fade to black, and that brings us to the final scene. Pig is still inside the igloo with the umbrella. He asks them if it stopped raining yet, and they say yes. And so Pig closes the umbrella and just leaves it inside the igloo. And Pig does get stuck again for just a split second, but Tiger manages to easily pull him out a little bit easier this time. He says, "Look, Pig, the igloo's been saved." When I was 3 years old, at first I thought Tiger was warning Pig about what was going to happen next, because then we see the igloo collapsing down into the ground. Well, it doesn't collapse altogether, but it kind of loses its bottom bricks, making it a lot smaller. Just kind of seeps down in there. And so, for quite a while, I was trying to figure out why Tiger was saying, "Look, Pig, the igloo's being saved," right before it collapsed like that. I was trying to think, being saved, what did Tiger mean by that? Was he saying that the snow was being relieved from the duty of holding itself together into this igloo structure? Like, it's finally going to relax and be free? Just be regular snow again? Like it's being saved from the hard work of being an igloo? Is that what Tiger meant? Because like the first 20 or 30 times that I watched this, it seemed like Tiger was warning Pig about the inevitable collapse of the igloo, but now that I'm watching this again, I think Tiger's referring to how the hail saved the igloo from melting by filling up all the holes, because Tiger didn't know that the igloo was going to collapse until a second later. Kind of surprised everybody there. Okay, that part was a little confusing, but I get it now. And then Pig says, "Oh dear, did I do that?" So maybe when Pig came out of the igloo a second time, maybe the reason why he got out a little easier is because as he was coming out, he accidentally shoved one of the bricks out of place, ever so slightly, they didn't even bother animating it. But he did something to the bottom layer to make it unstable, making everything on top sort of smash down into it. And because of that, the entrance to the igloo is a lot smaller now. And Tiger says we'll never be able to get into it now. But Arnold can get in. The entrance is just big enough for him. And Arnold looks so adorable just laying there in his little igloo entrance. And Kipper and Tiger comments on how, "You've got your own little igloo, Arnold." And Arnold's just sitting there sucking his thumb. And then Arnold says something very interesting here. He says, "Igloo." That's right there, ladies and gentlemen, is the only time in the entire series where we ever hear Arnold say anything besides "duck." Because Usually that's Arnold's catchphrase. He likes going to duck pond to the park and feeding the ducks, and he always says, duck! But no, he actually said Igloo this time. That's amazing. Very cute way to conclude this episode. Alright, that was Kipper the Dog, the Igloo. I enjoyed that one. I don't think we ever made an igloo at home, but I believe our class in school made an igloo on the playground one time. I think it was some kind of school project. We did some kind of unusual things at New School Montessori, but one winter, I believe we all built an igloo together. It was either a science class or gym class or something. I don't remember if we actually went inside it or not, though, but it was kind of fun. Now, one thing that I must say about this particular episode is that not only is it the B episode of this program, but also in December 1999, and reran again in 2000, they used this episode again for the Christmas special. When they did the Christmas Eve episode, they made that the A segment of a half hour, and then they reused 2 other segments that are snow-related. First they did Christmas Eve, and then they reused Snowy Day and the Igloo. And we'll talk about both Christmas Eve and Snowy Day this December. But right now, let's take a look now at today's C episode. What do we have today? Today's C episode is Hiccups. Okay, this should be a lot of fun. I'm not quite sure why, but for some reason, when I was a little kid, this was one of my favorite episodes. Maybe you'll remember why as we watch this again. Let's see. Oh, who was the writer for the Igloo? I forgot to look at that. Let's see. The Igloo was written by Matthew Westwood. Okay, it's the first time we've reviewed any episodes written by him, and it was a pretty good one. And Hiccups was written by Dave Ingham. Now, which of the store-bought videos came with the Igloo? Or no, I'm sorry, Hiccups. Which video was Hiccups on? We know the Igloo was the Let It Snow collection, but Hiccups was on the Friendship Tales collection. It's released in 2004. Okay, so let's dive into this. First thing we see is Kipper in his paddling pool, and this is not the same paddling pool that they use in Water Everywhere. This is actually his original one. He's just laying there in his pool with his yellow sunglasses on, and he's got a drink with a little crazy straw. He's just humming to himself, and then he takes a little drink, and all of a sudden, he hiccups, and then water from the pool splashes out, and he hiccups again, almost knocking his sunglasses off. And he hiccups the third time, and everything falls off. He drops his cup, his sunglasses fall off, and the straw goes flying, and water splashes everywhere every time he hiccups. It kind of jumps him. He says, "Oh, no, I've got the hiccups." Not to be confused with the cup that he just dropped. He's talking about the hiccups that just started, and he can't get him to stop. I think maybe one of the reasons why I liked this one was because I enjoyed anything that had like a certain kind of word or a certain sound repeated multiple times. Because I mentioned before that Dora the Explorer episode, Hick Boom Oh, that one kind of got my attention too when I first saw that one. So I don't know if it was because of the just hearing the hiccups over and over again throughout the episode kind of intrigued me somehow. I don't know. So anyway, Kipper gets out of the pool and he's coming inside and the telephone's ringing and we see the phone at kind of a strange angle. Like we see the phone from a side view instead of the front. And so the thing on top that kind of wiggles around as the phone rings. When I was 3, I didn't think that it looks very much like a phone. Just looks like a red bell on top of this red box. I mean, it kind of sounded like a telephone, but I was used to seeing it from the front view. Thought it looked really weird from this side. It's always kind of funny how the phone wiggles around whenever it rings. Wonder how many cartoons actually did that. Pig's phone kind of did that a little bit too in the Costume Party episode. Even though that phone was on the wall, it was a more modern one. Kipper's phone's a little bit more traditional, like a 80s style. Like it's got push buttons, it's not a rotary phone, but it has like the real ringing bells inside. And as Kipper walks to the phone, he's still dripping wet. And as he picks up the phone and answers it, he squeezes some water out of his ears, so I guess he didn't bother drying himself. He just got out of the pool and went inside to try to do something about his hiccups. He picks up the phone, and right away he says, "Oh, hello, Pig." So I wonder if Pig said something the moment he heard Kipper pick up the phone, because Kipper didn't say hello first. He just says, "Oh, hello, Pig." And then we see Pig and Arnold, and yes, that's the same phone that Pig had in the costume party episode. It's hanging on the wall like that, and it's yellow. And Pig asks Kipper if he wants to come to the park, because Arnold wants to feed the ducks. Yeah, see? Because that's what Arnold's always talking about. Duck! We don't hear him say it in this episode, though. But we do see Arnold holding a loaf of bread. Looks like some kind of French bread, baguette or something. And Arnold's eating a little bit of it. Takes a little piece off and eats it. So they want to go to the park and feed the ducks. And Kipper says, "I would love to, Pig, but I got the hiccups at the moment. I'll come along when I've gotten rid of them." And then Pig says, "Put a finger in each ear and stand on one leg. It always works for me. Doesn't it, Arnold?" And then Arnold, still holding the loaf of bread, puts his other finger into one of his ears and stands on one leg. When I was little, I didn't have a clue what Pig was saying. For a while, I thought it was something about a figure 8 chair. But no, he said, put a finger in each ear and stand on one leg. Yeah, that was kind of funny. Like, did he say a chair, a cheer? No, each ear. And then Kipper thanks him, still hiccuping, and says, "Maybe I'll see you later." He hangs up the phone, and then he tries to do what Pig said. He tries to stand on one leg and put his fingers into his ears, but he doesn't even get his fingers all the way up there before he says, "No, that's silly." Then when he puts his foot down, it splashes into a little puddle on the floor because he'd been dripping wet from the pool, so he doesn't think Pig's idea is going to work. And he walks along and thinks to himself, "Perhaps if I hold my breath and count to 100. When I was 3, I thought Kipper said, "Perhaps if I hold my bread." I thought he said bread instead of breath, which kind of made sense because we just saw Arnold holding a loaf of bread. But nope, he's going to try to hold his breath and count to 100. So he holds his nose and starts counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then he can't hold it anymore. He collapses to the floor, letting out all his air. The big blue cloud coming out of his mouth. I mean, it looks kind of blue against the white background, but it's just to represent all the air he was holding in. He hyperventilates a little bit to try to regain his breath. He sits up again, and he thinks he's gotten rid of his hiccups, but no, they're back. Well, maybe not back, but still there. Okay, then we fade to black. Next scene, and Kipper's looking in what I assume is some kind of medical book, like do-it-yourself home remedies or something. And he's going through the alphabetical sections, reading all the listings, trying to find something about hiccups. Ears. Droopy ears. Sticking out ears. Ear ache. Fever. Flu. Fat paws. Face ache. Every time he said ache, I thought he was saying Jake, because he's about to see Jake in a minute here. Because ache is the second syllable of Jake. Like, it's Jake without the J. At the age of 3, I didn't know what an ache was. In fact, I didn't know what most of these things were that Kipper was saying. And inside the book are some kind of weird-looking pictures. Like, they're just random dots and swirls. Like, I don't know if they're supposed to represent intestines or germs or what. I assume that part right there is supposed to represent ears. He turns to the next page and we see these blotches and some swirly thing. Turns the page again, and maybe it's a great big eye that's supposed to be. Like all these shapes, there's some kind of pinkish orange thing against a green square. He keeps reading. Where is it? Google eyes? Giddiness? Headaches? Whooping cough? It's kind of strange that whooping cough would be with H. Wouldn't that be W? Like, is it spelled differently in the UK? I don't know. When I was little, I thought he said drooping cough, but that's not right. It's gotta be whooping cough, but it's one of those words that sounds like it could start with an H, but it's definitely a W. So I don't know how that got in there. And then he finally finds the section for hiccups. And we don't see any of the words in this book. We don't even see anything on the front cover, because he picks it up then. We see the cover. It's just a kind of a red stripe with a few more lines underneath. And the book says, to cure hiccups, place yourself in an upside-down position and sing a song. And Kipper thinks it sounds like kind of a weird idea, but maybe not quite as weird as Pig's idea about putting a finger in each ear and standing on one leg, so he's going to give this a try. We dissolve to the next scene, and we see Kipper upside down. His feet are sticking up. We hear Kipper saying, I don't want to have the hiccups. Hiccups, you must go. I don't want to have the... And as he sings, the picture kind of slowly pans down to his upside-down face and the hands that he's standing on. He stops singing, and it appears that his hiccups are no more, or so he thinks. Next scene, Kipper's heading back outside again to the old paddling pool. He brings out his drink, and he's wearing his sunglasses, and he's got a towel this time. He lays the towel on the edge of the pool. And see, yeah, here comes Jake. Not to be confused with Ache. Jake says, hello, Kipper. It's a lovely day, isn't it? Kipper says, yes, Jake, it's a lovely day. A lovely, lovely day. I don't think I've ever seen such a lovely... And then he starts hiccuping again. So, what is this implying? Did his hiccups come back because he was happily saying something over and over again? It's a lovely day, it's a lovely, lovely day. I haven't seen such a lovely... Like, is that a hiccup trigger? Talking like that? Most of the hiccups that I've had as a small child came from laughing too hard. Like, if me and my grandpa were doing something silly together and I would laugh a lot, I would sometimes get the hiccups then. But we don't know what's caused Kipper's hiccups to begin with. I wonder if it's because Kipper started sipping his drink less than a second after he was humming. Did he start inhaling his drink, like sucking it in during the last note of his hum? Is that what did it? It could be. He definitely didn't. He wasn't laughing. I'm pretty sure there's other causes for hiccups besides laughing too hard. I don't know what they are, but I'm sure there's other ways. And that's when Jake says, I think you've got hiccups, Kipper. Kipper says, I know. I've had them all day. I can't get rid of them. And Jake says, well, I can always give you a bear hug. That always... what does he say here? I listened to this a couple of times. I'm not 100% sure. For years, I thought he said that always ships them. Like it ships the hiccups away. Like gets rid of them. But the way he moves his fingers as he says that, my second guess was maybe he said that always shakes them, like shakes them out. But listening to it a third time today, and also looking at the closed captions on YouTube, I think he's saying that always shifts them. Like shifting, because the shift means to, change place. And so Jake grabs Kipper and picks him up, like he's got his arms around his chest and lifts him up into the air. Like, wow, that's a really big bear hug. You're really strong, Jake. My grandpa on my dad's side of the family, he was known for his grizzly bear hugs. He didn't pick me up like that, though. He would always, put his arms around me and shake me as he hugged. That was his grizzly bear hug. But here, Jake is lifting Kipper up into the air. My goodness. I'm not sure Kipper's enjoying that much, though. He's like, no! I guess Jake's holding really tight. And Kipper says, Jake, I think you've done it. And, oh, man. Jake just completely lets go and lets Kipper fall to the ground. Youch. I mean, first, Kipper falls on his butt, and then he flops back down onto his belly. Like, kind of bounces down twice. And as annoyed as Kipper is about this, he's somewhat grateful for a second because he thinks the hiccups are gone once again. And much to his misery, they come back. Like, oh, I don't think they'll ever go. And Jake says, but a bear hug always works. To which Kipper replies, maybe it's because you're not a bear. Maybe it's because you're not a bear. Jake said the bear hug works for him, but Kipper thinks a bear hug doesn't work for him because Jake is not a bear. That makes me wonder, does Jake know a bear somewhere? I wasn't aware of there being any bears in Kipper's universe. Although Tiger briefly mentions bears in the episode Tiger's Torch, but we never see any bears on this show. This is interesting. Kipper's saying that a bear hug doesn't work because Jake is not a bear, and yet right before that, Jake said but a bear hug always works. So does that mean that Jake actually got hugged by a bear at one point? Or maybe Kipper just assumes that Jake thinks the bear hug would work because he'd been hugged by a bear once and now he wants to try it on Kipper. Either way, Kipper thinks the bear hug thing was just a dumb idea. And Kipper just walks away, hiccuping. And then Jake just kind of stands there. I don't know what's on his mind. He just kind of looks at his paws and he's just standing there. Ooh, I wonder if he's just thinking, oh, poor Kipper, I wish there was a way we can get rid of his hiccups. I wonder if the big surprise at the end is originally his idea, and now he's going to invite everybody else to help out with it. I won't say what it is just yet, but keep that in mind. Jake might be plotting something. Okay, so now Kipper's back home, and man, he's getting desperate. He's actually trying Pig's suggestion now. He's trying to stand on one foot and plug his ears. Actually, it's more like hopping on one foot, because every hiccup makes him jump. Finally he says, "Silly old pig, this'll never work." And he says, "I wonder if Tiger knows a cure." Then we cut to Tiger's house, and yeah, see, there's the front view of his telephone. And wow, the ring actually doesn't just wiggle the receiver, it's actually lifts it up in the air, like, goes up, and then when it stops ringing, it just goes back down. Lands neatly into place, and then it does it again. And Tiger's phone is blue. Kipper's got the red one, Pig's got the yellow one, and Tiger's got the blue one. I don't think anybody calls Jake on this show, though. So I guess they only need 3 colors. And Tiger picks up the phone, and answers it, says, "Hello, Kipper." And we don't hear Kipper talking, but apparently Kipper's telling Tiger about all the failed attempts to get rid of his hiccups. And Tiger says, "Have you tried holding your breath and counting to 100? And Kipper did try that, and of course it didn't work. And Tiger says, "What about standing on your head and singing a song?" I wonder if Tiger's read that same book. And also, I forgot to mention one important thing. On one of my old home movies, there's a clip of me in the backyard when I was 3 years old, and I'm running around the tree, and then I fall down to the grass, and my dad behind the camera says, "Kerplop." And then I don't exactly stand on my head, but I just kind of lay there in the grass looking up into the tree with my legs up in the air, and then I start singing Kipper's hiccup song. "I don't want to have the hiccups, hiccups, you must go, I don't want to have the..." So I guess, like, being on the ground and having my head on the ground, and then sticking my legs up in the air, at the age of 3, that was pretty much my definition of standing on my head and singing a song. I didn't really have hiccups at that moment, just being in that position made me think of that. Maybe I'll plug that into the computer and play some audio from that for you at the very end when we're done. I might even post a video on YouTube, we'll see. Like, it's very short, it's just under a minute. And apparently Kipper's telling Tiger about Pig's suggestion. Put a finger in each ear and stand on one leg. Tiger says, "Pig said you should do what?" And Tiger says, "Well, I wouldn't listen to Pig. Everything he says is silly." When I was a little kid, for years I thought Tiger said, "What I want isn't a pig." But he actually said, "Well, I wouldn't listen to Pig. Everything he says is silly." So I guess Pig has had a reputation of saying things that Kipper and Tiger thought sounded kind of odd. I don't think we've heard much of that, though, besides this. Pig's usually pretty honest, sometimes a little too honest, to the point where he uses not so nice language. And finally, Tiger has an idea. He says, "Kipper, have you tried drinking a glass of water from the wrong side?" "No?" "Well, that should do the trick." And then he hangs up, and we fade to black once again. And then the next scene, which kind of leads into the final scene then, we see Kipper standing at the table. He's kind of crouched down looking at this glass of water on the table. He looks at it and he's thinking, which is the wrong side? And he's looking at the glass all over. Like, Kipper doesn't have a clue what Tiger is saying, because a glass is round. It doesn't really have an end, so what do you consider the front or the back or the side, let alone the wrong side? So Kipper picks up the glass of water and starts to drink some, but then he hiccuped. Why do I have such a hard time saying hiccups? He hiccuped. Hiccup does have 2 C's, by the way. He hiccuped again, and as he did, the water in the glass splashed a little bit. He says, "No, that can't be right." And then he tries to, he holds the glass to his mouth, and then he kind of tilts to one side, our left, his right, or, no, I'm sorry, his left, our right, and tries to drink from a sideways angle, dripping out a little bit of water onto the floor in the process. But that didn't help at all. He looks at the glass again and says, "What does tiger mean?" And then finally, Kipper brings the glass to his mouth. How the heck do I describe this? And then he kind of leans forward, sort of tucking the glass into his neck, like his chin is sort of dipping into the glass, and his lips are on the opposite side of where you'd usually put them. So that instead of tilting back to pour the water into his mouth, he tilts forward so that the water goes the other way, and he tries to slurp it up like that, and he loses some more water in the process, but he must have sipped some, like a little bit. My goodness, Kipper, you've got a lot of cleaning up to do. First you were dripping on the floor coming in from the pool, and now you're doing this? Better get your mop after the show ends. Although the drips from when he came in from the pool are probably dry by now. And that's when Kipper finally taps the glass with his finger and says, "So that's the wrong side. Well done, Tiger!" And he lets out a happy sigh, thinking that his hiccups are gone. And can you guess what happens next? Yepper, Kipper, hiccups again, this time dropping his entire glass on the floor. Yeah, you definitely are going to have to clean that up. That's a big mess. He says, "Here, oh no, please, here, go away. I've tried every thing." And then the doorbell rings. He very sadly walks over to the door, covering his mouth, trying to hold his hiccups in. And then, just as Kipper opens the door, we hear, I think it's Tiger saying, 1, 2, 3. And then this happens.
1, 2, 3. Quiet, everyone!
And there's Tiger, Pig, Arnold, and Jake. The whole gang is there. And they just kind of step into Kipper's doorway. Tiger's got a horn. Pig's got that, what is that thing called? I've seen it on the Koala Brothers too. It's some kind of thing with like a stick with this little box on the end, and you kind of swirl it around. What is that called? Let me look it up. Okay, there's something called a wooden ratchet noisemaker. Is that what that is? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what that is. A wood ratchet noisemaker. Sometimes they're also referred to as clackers. But yeah, whatever it is, Pig's got one of those, Tiger's got a horn, and Jake is playing a massive drum, and Arnold's just holding a balloon. And they're all making noise to try to scare Kipper's hiccups away. And they just start playing as soon as Kipper opens his door, and Kipper just kind of collapses down to the floor because it really surprises him. And then as they're playing, Arnold's balloon pops, so I guess it makes a little bit of noise. I don't know if he meant to do that, or if it just happened on its own with static or something. Yeah, he just touched it and then it burst. But yeah, that moment right there, where they're coming into the door and then Kipper falls down, that's a very iconic shot right there. Because the day that I turned 3, my 3rd birthday, I sat down at the kitchen table to eat some Teddy Grahams and goldfish and a cupcake, and they set up these little birthday cards for me. One of them was a train with a face on it. I think one of them probably came from Grandma or someplace. And I'm pretty sure my dad must have made this. I think he had a computer by then. What was that? September 2000 I turned 3. Yeah, my dad must have just gotten his computer by that time. He didn't let me play on it yet until like about a year or so later. But on nickjr.com, they had a bunch of like still images of certain shows that you could print out. And this picture here was one of them. And so Dad selected that. He made this print file with this picture on it. And right underneath the picture, he typed on "Happy Birthday, Joshua." And then he printed it out and folded it and set it on the table there with all the other birthday cards. That was really cool. So I guess he used this picture as like, I don't know, comparable to like a surprise for like a birthday party or something. Even though my birthday wasn't really a surprise party, we never did that sort of thing. But it looked like they were all playing music and making noise, like a celebration, to celebrate that I was turning 3, even though that wasn't really the context of what's going on in the show. Because here what they're trying to do is they're trying to make a lot of noise to scare away Kipper's hiccups. But Kipper doesn't understand that yet. He says, well, after Tiger finally quiets him down, Kipper says, what was all the noise for? You really gave me a fright. And then Tiger laughs and says, sorry, Kipper, but it had to be done. And Kipper doesn't think it's very funny. I think they made a little mistake here. I hear somebody saying, how's the hiccups going, Kipper? That sounds a little bit more like Pig's voice than Tiger's voice, but we see Tiger's mouth moving. It's the same actor. Chris Line does the voices for all of Kipper's friends. Tiger, Pig, Arnold, and Jake. It's all played by the same guy. So I don't know, maybe the animator's supposed to read that wrong or something. I mean, it's a pretty understandable mistake because Tiger and Pig's voices sound very similar, especially in the earlier seasons. They're a little bit easier to differentiate later on in the second half of the series. So somebody says, how's the hiccups going, Kipper? And Kipper thinks he's still struggling with them, and then suddenly he realizes, wait a minute, they're gone! And Tiger says, I said it would work, didn't I? And he continues laughing. So apparently, I don't know whose idea this was. They were all in on it. Who came up with the idea first, I wonder? Maybe it was Jake. He's got that great big drum that he's banging on. My other theory was maybe Tiger told Kipper to try the thing with drinking the glass of water from the wrong side to keep him busy while Tiger and the other guys come up with this elaborate scheme to scare the hiccups away. Maybe that's what it is. Then they start making noise again. They come into the house. And looking again at Pig's noisemaker, it kind of looks like a flag, but hard, solid, like it's not soft fabric. Like it's a stick with that square sticking out on top. And it's also brown, which when I was little kind of reminded me of the chocolate cake they were eating in the tag sale episode. And as we hear the final notes of music, everybody's inside, but Arnold's still standing at the doorway. He's got a smile on his face, he's sucking his thumb. He's not too sad about his broken balloon, but there is one wee little problem for a wee little piglet. Arnold says, hey, and then Kipper starts laughing. Oh, poor Arnold, now he's got the hiccups too. I mean, at least I think he does. Or maybe Arnold's just being silly and pretending to hiccup because there's been all this talk about hiccups today. And then Kipper's just laughing along with him. Well, Arnold probably doesn't have to worry because he's got his big cousin and his friends to make plenty of noise if he needs it. So hopefully Arnold will be okay. Yeah, when I was little, I never really figured out any foolproof way to get rid of hiccups. The only thing that ever got rid of my hiccups when I was a toddler was time. They just kind of riot out and, eventually they go away. And as Kipper laughs, he just takes Arnold's hand and walks him inside to join the others and leaves the door open. Every time I looked at that doormat that Kipper has, that light brown one, I'm not sure what it's made of. I don't know if it's some kind of shaggy rug kind of fabric or if it's some sort of little wooden twigs that you wipe your feet on. Like I've seen rugs like that have like these bristly things. But when I was little, I always thought that looked like a great big salad crouton or maybe a big piece of cereal like, I don't know, Wheaties or shredded spoonfuls or something. And that's it. That was Kipper the Dog. Hiccups. Definitely one of the most memorable episodes of the series. And out of these 3 episodes today, the A, B, and C, I think Hiccups was probably my favorite. I really enjoyed the camping trip one too, though. And Igloo is pretty good also. I think Igloo's on top, or no, Hiccups is on top, the camping trip is in the middle, and Igloo's on the bottom. Yeah, but they're all good, in my opinion. And I remember Hiccups being one of the first episodes of Kipper that I completely memorized word for word. This one and Hide and Seek. I enjoyed it so much that me and my mom made a book out of it together. I drew the pictures and Mom wrote all the words down, and it was like 90% identical to this. I mean, my illustrations were very simple. They were just like little stick figures. But yeah, that was kind of fun. So, let me take a look at my list and see which Kipper episodes we'll be doing next month in May. Second week of May 2026. We've got 3 more oldies here, some of the earlier episodes of Kipper the Dog. Those will be episodes 13, 14, and 15, The Conker Tree, The Goldfish, and Sleepless Night. We'll talk about those old favorites next month. Next week, we will continue our analysis of Apple TV's Frog and Toad animated series. Next week's Frog and Toad stories will be The Garden, which is based on the second chapter of Frog and Toad Together, and A Cake, which is a brand new story never seen before in the books. A Cake exclusive to Apple TV, and I believe it's the first new Frog and Toad story since Arnold Lobel wrote the original books. So that'll be really exciting. We're going to talk about that next week. Until we meet again, this is Joshua Stauffer signing out. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll be back next week with another fun-filled episode of Kids TV and Me. Thanks for listening. I will see you next time. Kids TV and Me is a fan-made podcast and is not affiliated with any of the programs, production companies, or networks mentioned on the show. My primary goal of this podcast is to shine a spotlight on some of the underrated classics from my childhood, and to help you make informed decisions about your children's screen time. If you are enjoying this podcast, don't forget to leave a rating and a review. And if your podcast provider has a comment section, let me know your thoughts on the topics we've talked about today. To keep the conversation going, you can also leave me a message on Instagram at Joshua Stauffer Creations. And don't forget to check out my Substack page at joshuastauffer1.substack.com, where you can find more information on my other creative works, including my Little Joshua webcomics, and my book, Meet Zoe Richards, which is available in paperback on Amazon. Remember to always pay close attention to what your children are watching, and as always, don't be childish, but stay childlike.
What do we have? The hiccups. Hiccups. You and us go. Oh, Joe. What do we have? The hiccups. Hiccups.